The Galactic Council chambers fell silent as Ambassador Trell of the Velderi finished speaking. His slender form trembled slightly, the bioluminescent patterns across his skin dimming in what the assembled representatives recognized as profound distress. "My people will be extinct within 3 cycles if nothing is done," he concluded, voice barely audible even through the universal translators. "We have sent distress signals to every spacefaring species. The Velderi beg for your aid." The silence that followed was not one of shock, but of cold calculation. The representatives of 17 advanced civilizations exchanged glances, sent private messages through neural interfaces, and consulted with their governments light years away. Admiral Core of the Mantic Collective was the first to respond, his chitinous appendages clicking against the polished table. "The Velderi situation is regrettable, but intervention would draw the wrath of the Dominion upon any who assist. We cannot justify such risk for a minor species with limited technological value." Ambassador Trell's bioluminescence flickered in despair as, one by one, the council members declined to help. The Velderi homeworld lay directly in the expansion path of the ruthless Dominion, and none wished to challenge the most aggressive military force in the known galaxy. Only one seat remained silent. The human representative had not yet spoken. Captain Jack Miller of Earth sat motionless, his weathered face revealing nothing. Humans were newcomers to galactic politics, having achieved faster-than-light travel barely 30 Earth years prior. Their species was considered primitive by Council standards, their technology crude, their military insignificant. "Earth will aid the Velderi," Miller announced suddenly, his voice cutting through the chamber. A ripple of surprise moved through the gathering. Ambassador Locks of the Phrygian Directorate let out a sound approximating laughter. "With what, Captain? Your species barely maintains a dozen interstellar vessels. The Dominion would crush you without notice." Miller stood, straightening the simple blue uniform that marked him as Earth's representative. "Perhaps, but we will stand with the Velderi regardless." As the council adjourned, many representatives approached Miller privately, attempting to dissuade him from what they saw as suicidal folly. The Velderi were strangers to humans. Their worlds had never even established formal diplomatic relations. "Why risk everything for them?" asked the Juxian delegate, genuinely perplexed. Miller's answer was simple: because they asked for help. 3 days later, the Earth Defense Fleet, all 7 combat-capable vessels, arrived at the Velderi homeworld. The planet's once beautiful azure atmosphere was now clouded with debris from orbital bombardments. Dominion scout ships circled like predators, testing planetary defenses before the main invasion force arrived. On the bridge of the EDF Defiant, Captain Miller received a transmission from the Velderi High Council. "We did not expect anyone to come," said Elder Nix, his translucent features lined with fatigue. "Especially not humans. Our species have never even met in person." "That doesn't matter to us," Miller replied. "No one should face extinction alone." The human vessels positioned themselves in orbit, their primitive shields and weapon systems hardly impressive by galactic standards. The crew of the Defiant watched their sensors as the Dominion battle fleet emerged from hyperspace, 40 warships against 7. "This is Captain Jack Miller of Earth," he transmitted on open channels. "The Velderi are under our protection. Any hostile action against them will be considered an act of war against humanity." The response came swiftly. "This is Commander Brack of the Dominion. Your species is insignificant. Withdraw or be destroyed with the Velderi." Miller expected this. What he hadn't expected was what happened next. His communications officer looked up in surprise. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from everywhere." On the main screen, ships began appearing. First 1, then 3, then dozens. Civilian vessels, science ships, even ancient decommissioned military craft from across the galaxy. Not the official fleets of the Galactic Council members, but individual ships from every species. "This is Transport Captain Zinn of the Mantic Collective," came one transmission. "My government won't help, but I couldn't live with that decision. My ship stands with Earth." Similar messages flooded in. Hundreds of individual captains, scientists, and civilians who had defied their government's official positions to answer the cry for help that their leaders had ignored. Commander Brack of the Dominion observed the gathering fleet with growing concern. What had begun as a simple conquest was becoming complicated. The humans' willingness to stand alone against impossible odds had inspired something unexpected. A coalition of individuals united not by species or allegiance but by conscience. "You have 24 hours to withdraw from Velderi space," Brack transmitted finally. "The Dominion does not wish to create a multi-species incident." As the Dominion fleet retreated to reconsider their strategy, celebrations erupted across the Velderi homeworld. Elder Nyx contacted the Defiant, his bioluminescence glowing brightly for the first time in months. "Why?" he asked Miller simply. "Why would humans risk everything for strangers when the powerful species we've known for generations abandoned us?" Miller gazed at the view screen showing the impromptu fleet of ships from across the galaxy. Not an official armada, but perhaps something more powerful. "Because that's what humans do," he answered. "We stand up for those who can't stand alone, and it seems we're not the only ones who believe in that after all." The Galactic Council convened an emergency session the following day, unanimously voting to extend protection to the Velderi. None mentioned their previous refusal to help, but all understood that something fundamental had changed in galactic politics. Humanity had shown that courage could be contagious, compassion could cross species boundaries, and sometimes standing alone inspires others to stand with you. The Velderi would survive, and the galaxy would remember that when they cried for help, only humans chose to stand with them first, but not alone.